It wasn't residual Christmas carols that 11-year-old Mikelle Biggs was hoping to hear on the evening of January 2nd, 1999, as she rode her younger sister's new bike. It was the sound of the ice cream truck she was hoping for when she stayed out after her friends and sister started for home. In the time it took for her sister to go inside and come back out looking for her, approximately 90 seconds, Mikelle disappeared. There is a suspect, but he has never confessed to what happened to Mikelle. This is the story of the vanishing of Mikelle Biggs.
Only thoughts on the mind of 11-year-old Mikelle Biggs on an early January evening were riding her younger sister's new bike she got for Christmas and getting ice cream from the ice cream truck that came through their neighborhood. Along with her sister Kimber and other kids in the neighborhood, she rode bikes and played outside. She had gone into the house to get money for ice cream and then went back out to wait for it. But the ice cream didn't come to their part of the neighborhood that night, so as the sun started to set, the other kids started making their way home. Kimber started to go home too and wanted Mikelle to come as well, but she wanted to stay out longer, possibly still hoping the ice cream truck would come by. Kimber went into the house, and as soon as she got inside, her mother sent her back out to get Mikelle for dinner. Kimber walked back out to the street but didn't see Mikelle anywhere. She walked a little bit further and saw her bike on the ground but no Mikelle. The wheel on the bike was still spinning. She grabbed her bike and went home and told her mom she couldn't find Mikelle. By the time the police arrived, the neighborhood was out in full force, searching for Mikelle. Kimber showed the police where she found the bike, and they discovered 2 quarters on the ground nearby, the money Mikelle had grabbed for ice cream. They figured out that it was approximately 90 seconds from when Kimber went inside until she came back out looking for Mikelle. Just 90 seconds for her to disappear, never to be seen again. Who took Mikelle and where is she now? Okay, let's discuss. So, we do have a person of interest in this case, but we're going to hold off on that. And just out of curiosity, if that person wasn't a known person of interest, who would be your first suspects in this case?
To me, I think that it would be a crime of opportunity, which I think it kind of probably was, but even just taking that person out of it, I think that anytime you have like an ice cream truck, you know what you're attracting. Like a lot of kids, and you think about families making dinner or whatever else, and you think like, yeah, go get yourself an ice cream. It's it was a very normal thing back then. I mean, even when I was growing up, like we loved when the ice cream truck came, and we would all go running for it. And so, it's just unfortunately such a perfect lure to bring children out, especially if it's, you're just grabbing an ice cream really quick. Like you don't always have that parent supervision that you would at like a park away from the home or any other community based area. So to me, not necessarily that it would be the ice cream truck driver themselves, but anybody who knows an ice cream truck passes could see a girl with no family immediately around and go, oh, I could just grab her really quickly. And I think that's evidence based on the bike sitting there. I think that I read that she must have been taken in at like 90 seconds or less, and with something so quick. I think we had a case that we covered that we also felt was kind of just like a very quick opportunistic thing rather than her being a specific target. And so that would have been my theory.
Yeah, and I think, definitely the kids are known to be out because of the ice cream truck. It was pretty well known that the trucks would go through the neighborhood. But, and again, it's January 2nd, but we're in Mesa, Arizona, so it's warm enough for ice cream at that time. But I think you're spot on with just an opportunity. It was just, there was no way for anybody to be staking her out or knowing that she was going to be out there by herself. And all the other kids were out there, but they started to go home, and her little sister there, I think they were about 2 years apart, went home, and she I think in one interview said that, she was trying to get Mikelle to come with her, and and I don't know, like my inclination is to think that Mikelle was still like holding out for that ice cream truck,
Yeah.
and the ice cream truck just didn't make it into their part of the neighborhood that night, but they did vet all of the ice cream trucks and ice cream truck drivers, and they pretty much cleared all the ice cream trucks from any connection to her disappearance or any liability involved there. But again, it's 1999, and it's kids are still outside by themselves a lot at that time, and riding bike. And I know, when I was that age, I was out riding bike by myself all the time. Like I wasn't supervised at all. And a lot of times, kids weren't in the 80s and 90s. They just weren't, you'd just be out riding your bike, and you weren't always with friends, and you weren't always, supervised. So, and there's a lot of innocence associated with that, of just, you should feel safe in your own neighborhood, and you should be able to go out and ride your bike, whether you're a girl or boy or, anything. And I think that's kind of the comfort zone that, the families in this neighborhood were in, is that it's a safe neighborhood. But lurking in the midst was the now main person of interest. Yeah. But at the time, I think that they were kind of not zeroed in on him. One of the things that was really difficult for the family was that Mikelle's father, during the course of this investigation, they determined that he had been having an affair. And that doesn't, to me, draw any lines to him being responsible for Mikelle going missing, because what would be the motivation? Right. There was several kids. It wasn't the only, Mikelle wasn't the only kid. Yeah. I think, were there 3 or 4 kids in the family? Three? Because there was the 2 girls, and I know there was at least 1 boy. So to me, the fact that he was having an affair didn't draw a direct line or correlation to Mikelle missing, but apparently it did distract them, I think, from other suspects at the time. Yeah. And so and they said it was just really difficult on the family, because their sister and daughter is missing, and then they're kind of tearing the family further apart with this affair. Yeah. I mean, which that's his fault, his responsibility. However, it definitely made this whole thing more difficult for the family. So then they found out that there was a registered sex offender that lived 2 blocks away from their house. Yeah. And this man, in a completely unrelated incident, in October of 1999, so the same year, but it was October, Mikelle went missing in January. He was charged with 7 felonies for the physical and sexual assault of a different neighbor, and he was sentenced to 187 years in prison. Yeah. So he's currently in prison. Yeah. And initially, his wife and her sister, so his sister-in-law, gave him an alibi. They said he was at home, he was in the garage, at the house. And then after he went to prison and they were divorced, and he was never getting out, his ex-wife and her sister said, he wasn't here. He wasn't here between the hours of 5:30 and 7:30. And it was around 6 p.m. that Mikelle went missing. So they recanted. And so then that, his alibi was out of the window. Now, whether they were lying then or they're lying now, it's hard to say. But one of the things, so this guy's name is D-E-E, Lee Blaylock. And he has denied any involvement in Mikelle's disappearance, from the get-go. Yeah. And that's normal. You're not going to admit to something. But after he got arrested and is in jail for 187 years, he's not probably going to get out. He's probably not going to get parole. He's probably not going to get out of jail. And I don't know also, because it was another neighbor, but I don't know what the age of that neighbor was, that he went to prison for assaulting. And 7 felonies. So that's a lot, because that tells me that it probably wasn't one incident. It might have been more than one. It's hard to say, though, because you can get 7 in one incident. But I'm just, for that victim's sake, it's good that it's not out there, but at the
Yeah.
same time, like I'm curious to know, what was the age? Like,
Yeah.
was it one incident? Was it multiple incidences? But at the same time, I don't want that victim re-victimized in association with this case.
Yeah.
But even the family went to visit Blaylock in prison and ask him, and he still denies, like, that he has nothing, saying that he has nothing to do with Mikelle's disappearance.
Yeah.
And I don't, other than if his original victim was an adult, other than him not wanting the other people in the prison to know that he had killed a child,
Yeah.
I don't see any reason for him to not, it's not like it's going to affect him getting out of prison or not.
Well, I read that he was put on the sex offender list to begin with for child molestation and kidnapping.
Oh.
And so what is interesting to me is, and it was through 3 states, so he really hopped around and had that history. And then we have this strange disappearance of Mikelle. And then I read that he attended a neighborhood watch 10 days afterwards, which almost feels like revisiting.
And he got up, he didn't just attend, he got up and said a little speech about how if any neighbor's doing something like suspicious, he's going to call 911.
And then he a few months later goes and attacks somebody else in the same neighborhood. And so to me, it's almost like evidence of a personality disorder, where even if he did do something to Mikelle, like, there's a part of his personality that kind of stepped into this like savior mentality where he just can't or won't step away from that image he's created from himself.
Well, and also he was charged and convicted on physical and sexual assault, but he was not charged with murder. So that victim survived, as far as we know. So maybe it's just that he doesn't want to admit to murder, but at the same time, like, again, it's not going to change his, his prison time. Like, he's got 187 years. He's, I don't know if he's eligible for parole or not, but even if he was, like, for 187 years and with the crimes that he committed, the likelihood of him getting paroled is small.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't he just admit, to this?
More evidence of mental illness. I mean, you see child molestation where the, perpetrator is like, well, that's not what it was. It was love, and it absolutely is not. And so for him to step out as if he is, I would never allow anything to happen, even though he was convicted before with taking advantage of a child, you're, even that there, I think.
Well, I mean, he might have been like trying a misguided sense of like misdirection of like, I'm trying to appear to be a stand-up citizen. And 1999, we didn't have internet like we do now. So it's like now you can just go look up the sex offender registry and you can look and see exactly who is living in your neighborhood,
Yeah.
And not that people don't skip out on that and don't report and, move and don't update and stuff like that. So, I mean, you can still have people in your midst that you don't know about or ones that haven't been convicted. Yeah. But back then you didn't have easy access to that information, It's like now you have kids, you can search and see if there's any registered sex offenders in your neighborhood. And then you can educate your kids, like, absolutely don't talk to this person, don't go past their house, never be alone, in that part of the neighborhood. You can educate your kids having that information. Yeah. Of course, the other thing too, and one of the things that is good about the sex offender registry, is that it usually does say what type of charge it was. So there's a big difference between somebody getting a statutory rape charge and a violent rape charge.
Yes.
So statutory rape sometimes can be like a 19-year-old that has a 16-year-old girlfriend. And granted, that's not necessarily acceptable or right, but it's not a violent crime. Yeah. It's just inappropriate and against the law. But and every state has different, I guess, age ages and stuff for statutory. But sometimes, sometimes people on a sex registry aren't predators. They aren't, they're not violent. They aren't seeking out people to attack or to assault. And so reading those charges on that registry is so important. And not everybody on a sex registry is going to be a threat. It depends on what type of victim they prefer. And not that like none of this is okay, but I'm just saying like people don't have to live in this state of fear if they have somebody in their neighborhood, because it's these days, especially with the internet, like it's, a lot of neighborhoods do have sex offenders in them. So, but again, like not everyone is necessarily one that you have to be scared of for yourself or for your kids. But yeah, so this guy though, violent.
Yes, absolutely.
Violent, bad history, another neighbor, like all arrows point to this guy being responsible. Yeah. Because again, moment of opportunity, he could have been driving by like right when he saw that she was just by herself and just snatched her up.
And if he's feeling like he can attend a neighborhood watch and speak at it, then maybe he thinks he is performing the neighborhood watch by driving around in the evening. And so that's something to think about too. I also read that the police tried to search his trailer, but it was missing.
What trailer?
That he had this like not a mobile living home, and that they like tried to find it and it was gone.
So I had like a camper trailer?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that they could never find it, and it's to this day still.
Well, that's one thing that's interesting to me too, because even if his wife and sister-in-law like lied about his whereabouts that night, he still didn't bring Mikelle home.
Yeah.
If his wife and sister-in-law were there.
Yeah.
Unless they were complicit, which, has happened in the history of crime, unfortunately, is that you have couples that participate in these really awful crimes. However, I highly doubt that he took this child to his home. So if he was gone until about 7:30, that's not a huge time frame for him to go and assault and kill Mikelle, or even like hide her away. But that's the other thing too, is he could have taken that camper trailer and hid her away somewhere, that people wouldn't find her. Could have kept her drugged up, could have kept her tied up, and in that camper, and then he could have disposed of the camper once he was done with Mikelle.
Yeah.
But that's a really awful possibility.
Worst case scenario.
I did not read about that camper though, so that's interesting, because that to me indicates that it probably wasn't that he just, like in the other case that you were referencing that we covered not too long ago, like she was assaulted and killed probably like within the that evening or that morning, within a few hours. It was the same day. She was probably assaulted and killed and her body disposed of the same day. And as awful as that crime is, she's not suffering over and over and over and over again. And the thought of his trailer missing, because like I said, I did not know that. I did not come across that information. But knowing that she could have been held in that camper is even more horrifying than what I was originally thinking.
I agree.
And the fact that he, just absolutely denies it is just crazy to me. And I understand like that's becoming a murder charge, but it's like he's not going anywhere. Just go ahead but so the dollar bill.
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
So in 2018, a dollar bill showed up, and it had what was determined to be childlike handwriting that said, "My name is Mikelle Biggs. I was kidnapped. I'm alive." But then they realized it was fake. I don't quite know what would bring someone like almost 20 years later to do that. I imagine it was not a child who decided to do that. So then that means someone with their frontal lobe formed decided to try to be childlike in their handwriting to create that message. But almost in like a positive spin, it did bring the case back up to the media and to investigators, and kind of made people again like pay a little bit more attention to it. But yeah, that was very bizarre, and
Yeah, and it's weird too because again, Mikelle went missing from Mesa, Arizona, and this dollar bill was found in money that was paid for Girl Scout cookies, which is also just very disturbing to me. But it was a dollar bill that was collected for Girl Scout cookies in Wisconsin. And so to me, I'm thinking, how long has this bill been in circulation with that writing on it, and nobody turned it in? Or did somebody specifically turn it into this, to purchase Girl Scout cookies, and then the person that went through that money, probably collecting it, sorting it out by bill, ended up taking it to the police. But then, there's so many questions involved with that. But again, who would do that? And part of the reason they determined that it was probably not legitimate is because her name was spelled wrong. So Mikelle is spelled Mikelle, and I believe that it was spelled Mikele. On the bill. So that was one of the things that they're like, she probably didn't misspell her own name. She was 11 when she went missing. So it's not like she was 5 and hadn't fully learned how to spell her name yet. She was 11 when she went missing in 1999. And by the time, what year was it again?
2018.
Yeah, 2018. So if she was free, if she was able to, get on the internet, she could even search, and like she would see how her name was spelled, even if it had been years since she had spelled her own name. But she also could have reached out to, a lot of times in these news articles, they have email and phone numbers for the reporters, and then they put all the phone numbers, a lot of times in these articles for missing persons and cold cases, they put the number of the agency, they put, so in 2018, if Mikelle was still alive and she knows who she is, and, if she has access to the internet, there's so many other ways that she could have gone about doing that. But the other thought was, if she was alive and she was doing it, that somehow, like, how did she get access to, like her sister was talking about this interview, how did she get access to that bill, and how did she get the bill out without them seeing the message on it? And I mean, there could be lots of explanations for that too, because there are people that have been taken at a young age, and they're basically groomed into the lifestyle that they end up living in this pseudo captivity. So initially it's captivity. They start to get a little bit more freedom after they've been compliant and cooperative for years and years and years. And so maybe, she was allowed to go to the store and buy, a soda or something like that. It's unlikely. But there have been cases where people have been out, and even allowed to do things on their own occasionally, who were kidnapped as a child. And so it's unlikely. I think the family had a service for Mikelle, I think 5 years after she went missing. The mom said, I just need a place to go. Where, even though we don't have her remains, even though we don't have her body, even though we don't know what happened to her or where she's at, I just need a place where I can go and talk to her and, remember her. So they went ahead and had a service. They went ahead and buried, I think they buried an empty casket. They had an empty casket service for her. I don't know if they buried it as well, but they put a headstone up, and so that they have a place just to remember Mikelle. But Mikelle's younger sister, Kimber, the one that, was out there with her that night, who went back out looking for her 90 seconds later, she worked with the police like diligently in the beginning. She was, they had her run through the whole sequence of events. They timed her. That's how they came up with the 90 seconds. And so she's kind of become Mikelle's champion, and she actually goes around and speaks to a bunch of different groups, law enforcement, a bunch of different groups, just about the impact on the family when a child goes missing. And so she's really, been out there doing everything she can. to keep Mikelle in the news, and also, help other families and help other agencies through the work that she's doing and the talks that she's giving. But yeah. What? Oh, yeah. This was an interesting fact too. So, in at the 10-year anniversary, there was an article, and it said police have followed more than 10,000 leads,
Yeah.
and also that dogs were used that night, and they had picked up her scent, but it just kind of abruptly stopped, and that's why they think that she was taken and thrown into a vehicle. But I mean, in that time frame, that's what would have had to have happened, unless they pulled her like in behind the bushes or into a yard or something. But there's too much risk of somebody, a neighbor, seeing something,
Right.
if it's not his own yard or whatever. So
Yeah.
but yeah, anything else on this case that stood out to you?
No, just that I really, like you said, like Kimber's been such a supportive and such a great activist. I think that you can't really provide very much peace to families who are dealing with this kind of tragedy. But the way that she continues to use Mikelle as her motivation to, turn this tragedy into a source of strength for other families and for her own, I think is a really great thing about a lot of the cases that we cover, where there are changes being made to continuously improve efforts and hopefully to prevent this from happening. And so yeah, other than that though, no, I think we all kind of have an idea of, unfortunately, what happened to Mikelle. And so
Yeah, I wish that he would just, and I didn't even check to see, if he's, still in the same prison, if he's still alive, any of that. He wasn't, I don't think, that old when he went to jail anyways, but you just never know. People get killed in prison and stuff too, and with him, being convicted of, potentially child sexual assault, if you said he had previous charges for that. We all have heard the stories of how people who harm children get treated in prison. So, but, it would be nice if he, decided to just be honest, if he was the one that took Mikelle. And then if he wasn't, I mean, what are the odds that, he lived 2 blocks away from her house, and then some completely other random person happened to be there at that exact moment and take her? I mean, the odds are so astronomical.
yeah.
So, I mean, if it's, the simplest answer is usually the right one. It's definitely, Blaylock. But again, he hasn't ever admitted to it.
Nope.
And we don't have any evidence to tie him to it. And that's basically why this case is still unsolved.
Yeah.
Even if it's, a huge likelihood that he's at fault.
Well, and if he is still alive, I hope that trace of humanity shows itself in him at some point.
I mean, I just don't see how somebody who can violently assault a child and sexually assault a child has that type of humanity in them.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't one time, and it wasn't just, grooming or sexual abuse. It was violent.
Yeah.
And it takes a certain type of person to do that type of thing to any human being, let alone a child.
I agree.
But again, if it wasn't him, I mean, who the heck, But the trailer thing, that's definitely, that's a very interesting aspect. And I'm surprised, like, nobody, if he sold it, if he burned it out, like, if he took it to the dump, like, who knows? But man, finding that trailer would be like a huge thing.
I know.
Huge. All right. Anything else?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay.
All right. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, listening, and subscribing.
Thank you.